Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Saturday. So if you saw my video a couple days ago, it was talking about how 90% of your tackle box doesn't work sometimes in the fall. You got to go through a full progression of baits in your tackle box to find the one, and it's probably a type of bait fish or a frog or something that the fish are really keyed into, bluegill, crawfish, whatever it may be, and that's the deal. Now, the reason for that a lot of times is because the big fish are going to do something a little bit different on every lake. So on the lake that I live on, Gunnersville, we have big grass mats. The shad, the bluegill, everything is pushed way back into those grass mats. So a frog and a flipping stick are major players this time of year. But if you have a lake like no grass, overhanging trees, shade lines, bushes, and 1.5 feet of water, it doesn't really matter depth because bass are going to go wherever those shad go. So on lakes that are deep and clear, they may push that bait way out into 30 feet of water and it's below the thermocline and there's some oxygen out there and fish go super deep. Or it can be like the Tennessee River where they go super shallow, and depending on whatever cover or shade you have, the bass will push that shad until they really can't swim anymore, literally. So for that, you have to give every bait in your tackle box a try. So a chatterbait for me, not one of my favorite baits this time of year on most lakes, but if I get into a situation where I need to skip a bait under overhanging trees, chatterbait's one of my favorite baits to skip and to kind of slow roll and figure out what depth they're in. If it's super shallow, I can keep that bait up. If it falls off quickly, I can kind of roll it down the side. So it all depends on the fishery you're at. So most of the time, I'm going to start off looking with topwater. But when the topwater bite just isn't there, because maybe the fish just aren't in a position where you can catch them on topwater, that's when you have to break out the flipping stick. Or maybe the fish are just not up high enough in the water column. You got to kind of fish for them off the edge of the structure, and that's where your crankbaits and your chatterbaits are going to come in. So this time of year, there's not really one thing that really jumps out at me other than you have to imitate shad or crawfish, which is a pretty open-ended deal. You could pretty much do that with almost any bait. When I think of the pre-spawn, I want something vibrating. I want something giving off that sonic pulse to attract those fish to their lateral line. When we get around the spawn time, it's all about something slow on the bottom that's going to lay in their bed. When we get into the post spawn, I know shad spawn is coming on. I know fish are really in a funky mood. They want white and they want bright colors flashing around in their face like a spinnerbait. We get out into the summer, I can slow drag something around schools. I know those fish are going to be there for a while, but when they get shad on their mind, they know winter's coming. They're all over the place. So there's not a single bait that you can't rule out this time of year, which is tough. It's really hard because a lot of guys have one or two things. I have one or two things that I really like to do, but that's just not the way to fish this time of year. You really have to go through every rod and reel on your deck, every bait in your tackle box to figure out what it is, because it's not so much about necessarily imitating the perfect bait fish or imitating the crawfish, the bluegill. It's putting that bait where those fish live, and they could live anywhere this time of year. So it makes it kind of fun, makes it kind of tricky. You got to kind of play with both of those and figure it out, because this is the time of year where when you get on something, that's typically the deal, and everyone's trying to get on that as well. So good luck to you. Try that, and I'll see you on the water.